Hey, welcome to DNB Academy 174 event. I'm Dan Larson, and today I want to break down a track that I made recently. I think it slaps, it really kicks ass. So let me play it for you first. All right, so this was a track. Ooh, it felt so good listening it back. Okay, so I would say break down the whole track from the outside, because this is the simplest thing. Now, you might be wondering, why does this sound so well? I think it sounds so powerful. And I don't know, man. It's just, choosing the right drums, making really fat basses, and just group them together, process them together. There is no real magic behind that, except one thing, and that is your ears, to hear what goes well with the other sounds and what doesn't. So, I can't say that this magic tool or that magic VST or whatever, or what you can do here and what you can do there will just make your song sound really wide and fat and powerful. It's really about not real mixing, but I would say recording is the magic. So recording means that, simply how you choose your sound and how you design your basses or synths or whatever, and how you choose them to play them together. And that is I think this is the most important part of making a song. People say that it is really about mixing. I think this does not even about mixing, because, mixing is when you already chose your drums, already made your basses, and you apply like EQs, compression or whatever. That is mixing, just making it into the final form. It is the same when you play in a band or when you produce a song for a, like a rock band. They already brought you the recording of the drums, the recording of the guitars. You can't really do too much with that, except EQing, compressing, and whatever. But the real magic comes how you record these sounds, how you record the drums, how you record the guitars, what equipment you use. And, these really add a lot to the final sound. And really, this is what really makes the fatness, it really makes the loudness. So it is more important what sounds you choose. For example, if you're talking about drum and bass production, what drums you choose, what basses you create, like how you design those basses, if they are if they are really loud or soft or whatever. These are the things that really makes you sound the overall song, the sound of the overall song, the final song. So I have a drums group. It is not a big deal here. And this track here is only to the outro, to fade out the drums. So on the main drum group, I only have a saturator, and that's all. So I have the main drums, basically just the kick and the snare. This is all cover, is basically a transient shaper. There is no real magic behind that. Very, very simple. State of mind drums. I have a shuffle. They are very simple again. Not too, not very important parts of the song. I have one layer. I have lots of hi-hat sounds, lots of hi-hat layers, I would say. And the reason behind that is that first I need to, I had a reference song and I want to reach the clarity and the top frequencies, the hi-hats. I wanted to match my song with that. And I found that I need to have like lots of instruments that made the wideness, like really wide hi-hat sounds that doesn't really play as a hi-hat, but most like a stereo widener or something. This is what I heard in lots of drum and bass songs, that the real width comes from the hi-hats. And there are regular hi-hats that are in the middle, and there are other hi-hats that really just gives the wideness, the width of the sound. And this is why I have one layer of hi-hat. These are in the middle, so they are not really wide. They have very small amounts of stereo image, but they're mainly in the middle. Of course, I have a crash. I have very wide tops, like with rides and whatever. And I was like, okay, this is still very good. I mean, it is already very good, but I still miss something. And I just, referenced the state of mind track with mine, and I found that, come on, the hi-hats are a lot more prominent in the state of mind track than mine. So I thought that, why not just, stole the whole thing from State of Mind track. So I made a high cut like this, and I'm going to tell you in a minute why the shifter is here. So I made a high cut, and I basically just chose the top frequencies, or stole the top frequency from this track. This is a common trick, I would say. It doesn't really matter. You will only hear that there are lots of hi-hats going on. All right, and the shifter is here because sometimes these hi-hats can create some problems. And I found that if I use a frequency shifter on the hi-hats, I can create a different tone, and it won't collide with drums, with, for example, the snare or the kick. And this is why the shifter is here. And also it is very important to place it before the EQ8, because you know frequency shifting always creates some unwanted frequencies. But basically, I just wanted to make it a little different than the original one was, like. So you don't hear those high frequencies that come from, for example, the basses or the synths. You just only hear some shizzle at the very top end. So this is the drums. As you can see, it's very, very minimal. Several layers of hi-hats, kick and snare, and basically that's all. Even this shuffle is not very important here, because if I disable it, I don't really hear the difference. So anyway, this is the drums. Then comes the bass and the sub group. So what I did is I placed the basses and the sub in one group, and I processed them together. And I would say this is important, because even though I processed the sub and the bass differently, the bass group differently, as you can see here. So this is the sub. I mean, this is just a regular sub, and I used utility gain as a sidechain. The same here with the basses. Even though they can create some unwanted peaks if you process them separately. So this is why I grouped them. And basically, when I will have only the drums and the basses as one sausage. And this is really great. I have the cuts for the drums in the bass sausage, I mean the bass sub sausage. So they will just play well together, because I already sidechained the whole thing. I could have dropped here, I mean on the main group, the sidechaining device, the utility tool. But I decided then maybe there will be some places where I want to keep the bass but not the sub, and like the opposite. So I just thought that this is the best to do it this way. Okay, so in the bass sub, as you can see, I have only a saturator with 1 decibel of drive and some very slight EQing at around 400 Hz. So the mid-bass area, I found that those frequencies are a little too dominant, so I pulled them back. Like, it sounds a little smoother, and the limiter to the end to add even more gain, like with 3 extra decibels. So in the bass group without the sub, obviously I have an EQ where I chop off the low, so I'm using a separate sub to make room for that. I don't want to collide. This is it is very, very important. I can't tell you how important this is to cut the lows if you have a separate sub, but I think I don't need to talk too much about that. I mean, the multiband compression is not, so it's not an OTT here. It's just a OTT light, as I would say. I would call it this way. It's a very nice, but also a light compression that creates some interesting clarity to the whole group. It still evens out the sound like OTT does, but in a very light way. So I like to put these on groups, I mean on bass groups or synth groups, because this adds more like clarity than compression. Okay, then an EQ8, a limiter again, and the sidechain information. And on the sub, it is very simple. As you can see, it's just a distorted side. It's not even distorted. Oh, yeah, here is a saturated. Yeah, it's distorted with a digital clip with lots of gain. So it is hard saturated. And then I fine-tuned the sub Especially I wanted to cut those clicks and tame the mid-low frequencies a little more. And the limiter and the sidechain, of course, like always. So basically these are the sub and the bass sounds. I have another group called the background fillers. There are lots of stereo noises and whatevers are here. Let me show it to you. This is actually very important because this is what fills the background. So in dubstep production, we use like lasers, arpeggiatos and whatever, but as I experienced in drum bass production, it is very different because you don't want to use those instruments. You want to use different like swooshes and noises. Let me show it to you. So these are the background fillers, and along with the drums, and these are very different things. I think I cut one sound from my old song COVID-21. Let me show it to you. Which one is that? Maybe you will recognize it. So basically I just cut out some sounds from that, like this one, and just some hard EQing. And this one is a riser kind of thing. Nothing interesting here. And some serum basses where I just cut the lows and made it like real just a noise. So like this one. But I wanted to make sure that all of them are very wide. Again, this is an old serum presets, old serum bass that I made with lots of extra effects to make it really wide. And this is all. I think this is very important to make your song interesting. So you really want to fill the background with lots of interesting elements. Of course, I have a synth group. I mean, I bet you heard those very cool synths. And they play really well with the background fillers. Because especially the chord hit plays well with this thing. Alright, so again, this is very simple things. I have this little, I love this thing. It had such a nice, interesting call out for the whole drop when it sounds, because it's just a very short thing. And this is all. You won't hear it once again, only one octave higher. And it's just a serum thing. Let me show it to you. It's super simple, but sounds almost like a vocal sound, a vocal effect or whatever. It's one wavetable with lots of unison voices. As you can see, it's Cream from, I think it is from Digital. Yeah, Digital Cream. All right, with 16 voices of unison and some effects here, like doesn't even have a reverb filter or a comp filter or whatever. It's really only the highly detuned unison voices that make this sound. But it sounds so cool. And some hard EQing, saturation, reverb, whatever. And again, very hard chop at the low end. So this is the main, I mean, this is not the main thing, but this is the first sound that I made. And I made a lead sound, I mean a melody out of that, but my friend told me that, hey, this is not really good. You don't want to make a melodic song. You just want to make a really nice groove with really well-placed sounds that play well together. So I deleted this whole lead. I mean, it was like, I made something like this out from this sound, but you know, I had to change it because the dude was right. And I just kept this really short kind of hook. But I think it's awesome. And then when he told me that, hey, he doesn't like it. First, he only told me that he doesn't like the sound. I was like, okay, you might be right. Let's make a little more metallic sound. So I made this thing from operator. I mean, this was not how it originally sounded. It was more like a metallic block or whatever, a percussion kind of thing. And I kept the same melody, but with this sound, with this kind of metallic percussion kind of sound. And he was like, you still don't get it, all right? Okay, I still don't get it, you are right. You don't want to have a melody line. Just delete it and try to use different basses with different filters. I was like, okay, you might be right. And he was right. But I kept this sound and I added lots of choruses. As you can see, I froze this sound because every hit, it sounded a little different on every hit, simply because lots of moving instruments, like lots of extra voices from the chorus, and I don't know what is in the stereo filter, but I guess it's a comb filter. I'm going to unfreeze it in a second. So I added those effects to make it really different and like an effect more like an instrument. And because it sounded different in every hit, I had to freeze it, and I just chose the one that I liked the best, and I copied it over to the song. But if I unfreeze it, I can show it to you what's in the Serum FX. Yeah, it's a comb filter, some delays, and reverb, compression, equalizer, and even more voices with the hyper. But let me redo it. And this is all here. It's just a stupid operator sound with lots of effects, lots of FM. Let me unfreeze it again. So it's basically, as you can see, just one side wave on a little higher chords. I think it's on 6 if I see it well. Yeah. And it's modulated by a square, modulated by another sign. It's just a very, very stupid sound. But if you place it on the snare, I mean, it sounds awesome. And it's just a noise, really. It's just a noise. All right, this super saw, again, the simplest sound ever, but all along with the background filler, this thing, I love it. I love it. Okay, let me show the super saw. I just call it super saw. It's not a real super saw because it's a BS2 acid and for whatever wavetable with reverb filter, with extra voices and the compression and the high pass filter and the delay, for the metallic rings. And 2 instances, of course, is to make it really like a super saw or something. Okay, cool. The simplest sound ever. But the wow sound with this little hit, I think it's great. Such a cool sound, such a cool groove. Now, these are, again, an important element of the sound of the groove. Ooh, ah, ah. Now, this is a loop that I made for a pack for loop masters. And this is how it sounds. And I wanted to search it. I wanted to find this loop and how I made it. I didn't find that. And I mean, in most of the cases, when I make a sample pack, I always document everything and I always save everything. So later I can call it back. But I didn't find this particular loop for, I don't know why is that. So anyway, what I did is just chose this chop, crank it up to a really high value, like 2 octaves higher, placed with a texture warping mode. Let me show it to you. This is how it sounded originally. And another cut. And some effects, of course, reverb, an OTT, a flanger, and an EQ to the end. But again, the coolest part is that all of these sounds play really well together and form almost like a melody, but they are not. Boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, boom, pam, something like that. All right. And some fillers here and there. So when we get to the final bars of the groove, I have the like a laser. It was a company laser, but I tweaked it a little. It's really just two wavetables FMing together with a really high frequency on the sync. So it's not that complicated, but it sounds really well with the other things. And also it makes a nice switch from the sounds that I made or I used previously. And some other small things here and there. So the synths are here, and I always try to synthesize everything from scratch, but sometimes it can happen that, you know, you find a good sound and you don't want to change it because it sounds so well. And this is what happened here that I showed you with this loop that I made. I wanted to search and find the origin of that, but I hate it. I hate when I make a cool sound or a cool pack and I make a mistake and I ruin all the things, so I can't use them. I mean, I have lots of sounds from this pack because I save all the sources, but for this particular one, I don't know why I didn't find that. Anyway, so these are the synths. Let's go to the effects. I mean, very, very simple swooshes. I have this whatever percussion kind of thing. FM from Sub Mirror, whatever. And I place the vocoder here that eliminates those noisy frequencies. And this is what I like to do when I have a very nice sound, but it's a little too noisy, it's a little too over-affected. I like to put a vocoder, and like in lots of cases, it really makes the sound a little smoother. And this is what happened here. It's very rusty and very low quality, I would say, but with the vocoder, it filters those frequencies that I don't like. It's magic. And then I added the pedal, lots of fuzz, chorus assembled to, again, eliminate those fur that comes from the distortion, from the pedal fuzz. The reverb and an OTT and some EQing. And this is so cool because it can make a whole difference to the song when you get to that part. Very simple sound. It's just like wick, 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 like a dog squeaking, but it makes a whole difference. And of course, I have some risers. It's just the world's simplest riser. Some LD4 on the level and on the fader, and that's all. Yeah, some distortion. And this is all. Another cinematic riser that I love, honestly. I love this sound. I love this sound because it makes a very, very nice atmosphere to the groove, especially in the intro. And as you can see, again, it's very simple. I have this one waveform from a wavetable. I don't remember where I cut it off from, with unison voices and the saw wave and the bandpass filter that focuses really on those middle frequencies that really makes the interest to the sound. So cool. And some chorus, reverb, high pass filter, and the compressor. As you can see, or as you can hear, the low pass again is an important part for the chorus. Anyway, I love this riser, and then it gets going up. So cool thing. And regular noise sweep. I have this laser that one of my friends said he doesn't really like it at that part. But I love it. Yeah, so for the effects, these are very, very simple sounds. And I have the intro and the bass group that I haven't discovered for you guys. I haven't broke down, so let's start with the intro. For the intro, I have lots of different things again. Let's start from here. So I have a massive sound. It's just a regular atmosphere. It's not even massive, it is from Serum. Lots of effects. Very simple thing again. The magic is coming from the noise and the unison voices, and of course filtering them a little. But the effects, and this is one of my favorite things to put on this kind of atmospheric sounds and even on basses, is vocal synth. I love this thing. You can add so cool, unique texture to these sounds that it's crazy. I also have Volcano here, some nice distortion with filtering, dimension expander. It's basically the Serum version, just, you know, in a different device, and some echo. So not very complicated, but it definitely adds a lot to the final sound. I have a distorted pad I love here. It's really just about distorting the hell out of the sound of the wavetable, the 4-0 whatever. So with low passing, some huge drive, and here the distortion, the tube distortion. And this is all, but along with the other sound. All right, I have a very high frequency violin pad, as I call it. It's basically the same thing that we used here, but on a lot higher frequency. And Neuro pad is basically just a square with lots of unison voices and filtered. But what I love here is this lead thing. So it's so quiet and so in the background. I guess you barely hear it, but it definitely adds a very nice interest to the sound as it, you know, plays a little melody. Try to focus on this one. So cool and cinematic. Again, it's very simple, just unison saw waves, saw and square with low passing them. And this is all here, some extra effects, but basically it's just really about shaping those unison voice backed saw waves. This is all here, but on a higher frequency. It's so cool. Okay, I have a vocal synth thing, as I named it like that. As you can hear again, vocal synth adds a very cool texture to the sound. I love this thing. And again, the Serum preset is very simple. It's just this sim loop and a reverb. So how cool is that? Some stupid effects, some EQing and echo, but with the vocal synth, I think this turns into a very unique sound. Okay, I have another drone, but this time it is coming from Massive. The same thing, vocal synth gives some extra interest to the sound, and with the frequency shifting, I was able to make it even more drony. So the Massive preset, again, it's not a big deal. It's one wave, no, actually 2 wavetables, the reduc, the carbon, and I'm not sure if that, okay, we have some phase modulation. So the band pass, low pass, some delays, reverbs, and nothing fancy here with the clip and parabolic shaper. Yeah, that's it. Parabolic shaper. Okay, so the very basic thing, but with some extra effects, especially with the vocal synth or some frequency shifter, you can create very, very cool drones. And this is what I did here. Now, this particles pad, originally it was a pad, but I modified the operator preset. I was able to come up with this cool metallic percussion bells or whatever. And as you can see, minimal effects here, only some EQ boost and the reverb to the end. So the operator preset is very simple. We have 3 oscillators, what is a triangle? Yeah, a triangle, a saw, 3, so just a very filtered kind of saw wave, and another for the same wavetable, or waveform, and it FM modulates with, again, with the same waveform on course 8. So different courses makes the sound very rich and wide, because you really want to have those high FM metallic overtones on the whole thing. And I think yeah, the FM modulation does that to it. But every other operator gives a lower or a higher tone that the operator D FM modulates. So that is so cool. And the pitch modulation to add some click to it. And the low pass filter to kill those very high frequencies and keep them only on the attack, on the transient. I'm not sure why the LFO is here. It is not doing anything to it basically, so we can kill it. And this is all. I think again it creates very nice cinematic tone to this whole thing. Alright, I added one percussion loop from the same pack that I showed you before, where this loop was, and this is this nice clavier sounding percussion loop. And I think, again, it's an interesting little difference. But the impact that we all love in cinematic music is the dumbest sound ever, really. And it's just one sine wave, with really high pitch modulation going on. So it's almost like if you made a kick. I added another noise, another sine, and modulated it with noise too. And in the filter section, I added the hard shaper, and this is what glues everything together. I mean the noise and with the sine wave, because this is how it would sound without the hard shaper. And that is so cool. Low pass and the reverb. And boom, we have the impact. Now I resampled this impact and use it up later. I'm not sure where it is. Maybe I put it into the effects or somewhere else. We will find that. But I have an even more oh, maybe I have this in the Bram. Yeah, this is it here. So I resampled this, cranked it up by 1 octave, reversed it, and I have a nice riser. So I start the whole song with this one. And here is the Bram that we all love again in cinematic music. It's so cool. Oh, we need the drums too for that. Yeah, so I have several layers, as you can see. Let's start with the main Zomboy Bram. I actually made a YouTube video about this on my YouTube channel. You can find me on Letsynthesize. So this is the main sound. Let me kill the delay. So very simple, I have a higher lead. This is how it sounds. It's again a weird FM synth. As you can see, I have lots of FMing going on in operator with a bandpass. But the trick here is that, as you can see, it is 3 semitones higher than the original sound. So the key is in E, but I place it 3 semitones higher than the main Bram. And the main Bram, again, is just a distorted kind of thing. This thing here, this has a sine wave modulated by another sine wave and another sine wave, a lot higher frequency. But it is not even necessary. I think it would work simply with one sine. Yeah, with the FM it's a little crazier, but nothing extraordinary. Of course, in the shaper in the filter I have the shaper. And the magic Letsynthesize fat track is that really creates the sound. Because this is stupid, but this is really crazy. I already made I made a video about this thing, the Letsynthesize fat track, that you can find on my YouTube channel. But basically, it's just a combination of multiband distortion. So what I did is I played several instances of light distortions from overdrive, from saturator, or what's else there? I think pedal, pedal and amp are there too, and some OTTs, but it's not the most important part there. Anyway, so lots of things there that really creates a sound, and another bunch of distortion and an EQ8 where I tame the sound from the resonant peaks. All right, and of course some delay to the end to make it really airy. But let me give it back. Oh, I already had a noise. But I thought that this does not sound well with the other layers that I used. Okay, so I have another layer. And this is a resampled version of the synths. Let me show you the original one. Oh, I already processed it, but this was originally at a pam pam, pam pam, you know, with the chord stab. So this was the original sound, and I time stretched it really heavily, and I placed it on the bram. It's very light, but I think it definitely adds a nice entrance to the sound. But the corpus thing, this layer here, is again a very interesting sound. But I have a little problem here, because this version of Live on my PC doesn't really want to use, or just, you know, the corpus just does not work. I don't know why, but if I play this sound, like here is a MIDI for that. I mean, it's an audio track, but it plays well. But if I activate corpus, boom. It plays it once, and after it, it mutes. And I don't know why. On my Mac, it works pretty well, so no issues. But here, I deactivate it, I activate it, play it once, and boom, it mutes. But let me try to show it to you once. No sound, never mind. So what I did is I added 2 instances of corpuses that create some huge resonance to the sound with some reverb and flanger, distortion, another reverb, and a huge resonance peak at around 758 Hertz with a fast filter. It creates a very interesting thing, because, you know, we almost created a noise-like instrument with these huge resonances coming from corpuses, and of course with the reverbs. But when I boost one frequency and distorted it really heavily, it creates mayhem. And I resample that and put it in onto this track, and I place another reverb and some auto pan to create that LFO sound. I'm not sure if it is transposed up only 4 semitones, all right. But anyway, with the main bram, it sounds so cool. And of course, I use the impact reverse impact with some grain delay to make it even more mystical, I would say. So this is the bram. As you can see, I have lots of going on here, and I wanted to place, you know, when we got to this point of the intro, I found that, okay, we have a nice atmosphere with the brams, but this is not trailer music. I wanted to have something that plays in the middle, that adds the interest to this whole thing. So I wanted to get just a very simple sound that, you know, just plays in the middle frequencies, and it was just a simple sine distorted. That's all. It's really, this is all. A sine wave, some hyper distortion and a reverb, and of course an equalizer to the end to chop off the very, very high frequencies. And this is all, but I think it's so cool how big difference it makes to this part of the song. Anyway, so we got to the build-up. I start to fade in the basses, the resampled version of the basses. Of course, with some EQing and reverb. And this is a common technique, a common thing that we always use to fade in, to tease the basses. So when the drop comes, it will not be that surprise what you get or what you can expect from the drop. And this is, I would say, a very cool thing if you don't have any other idea to, you know, match the drop with the build-up and the intro. This always works. Okay, it's a little cheap, it's a little lazy, but this always works. And I have the build-up drums, and this is an ABLETON drums, whatever pack. It is called Session Drums. Okay, so this is from, it's a free pack, I guess, if you have the sweet version. It's so sweet from them to they gave it out for free. But you know, I had to tweak this a lot, I would say. Because let me show it to you, we have the kick. So with that, some extra tweaks, 3 EQs or just 2 and the drum bass, it would sound like this. When I haven't even deactivated the effects after the whole group. So you don't really hear that. Anyway, so what I wanted to do here is, of course, adding lots of transient shaping, so lots of click to the sound with the drum bass. And some crunch with the drive, of course. But what is more important here is to boost the frequencies of the kick that will cut through. I didn't want to have the same energy for these build-up drums like we have in the main drums, so I wanted to keep the main drums a lot heavier. But I still wanted to hear those kick drums. So this is why I cranked up a lot at around 60 Hertz. It is about like 12 decibels. But it is also important to chop off the the low frequencies, the sub frequencies, and focus on the peak frequency that you want to use. So you won't lose energy for this part of the sound because, you know, we don't really need these frequencies. It really works on kicks. And I see lots of people doing that, using a high pass and boosting on the interest frequency, on the sweet point of the kick to make it really like slammy. Now be precautious with that. You don't really want to overdo it, and especially if your track is very airy. So if you, for example, produce like house, deep house or dubstep, you really want to have a long and subby kick drum. Now that this technique won't work there. It only works here in drum and bass production, and especially in the build up if you want to have a little shorter kicks that, you know, roll up and speed up really fast. But again, this thing here works really well. Let me show it to you without the whole thing. I mean, without the EQ. It's just too subby, man. I mean, it's cool. It sounded great, but altogether, let me show it to you. Okay, and after that another EQ, same those mid-low frequencies a little more. All right, then the snare the same. Oh, I didn't add too much to it. Okay, so the snare is untouched. Anyway, these are the build-up drums, and I have a weird poser and a growl riser. And another percussion loop that basically is just a hi-hat with another snare. I'm not sure why the shifter is here. I think it sounds a little better on a little higher frequency. Okay, so this is the intro. Lots of things are going on here, as you can see, especially with these small edits, like from like with the Bram and those distorted sine waves or sine plugs. Just make a whole difference. Okay, now let's go to the main part, the basses, because we have lots of here. Okay, so the main bass is coming from operator. I made like 3 different versions to catch this kind of sound. I kept the only one that I would say I like a little, that is from Serum. Let me show it to you if I use that one instead of operator. But I was like, I don't know, this is not the one that I'm looking for, because I wanted to catch that sound, that system. What was my reference artist? I forgot his name. State of Mind, sorry. So I wanted to have that sound, that State of Mind, and other big artists use a lot, you know, those very heavy FME sounds, FME basses. That was, I mean, this is not what I heard in their songs. And let me show it to you. It's basically just bent filter, not bent, warped thin streak wavetable. I think again it is coming from the digital. No, it's not here. Maybe spectral. Yeah, thin tick. This is it. So I just use a bend and a low pass filter with some distortion and an extra boost in the mid frequencies. This is important here, by the way. But this was not the one I was looking for. So I went to operator because I so trust in operator. Simply because Serum's FM capability is very bad. So you can use a fan, but it's just fake. It doesn't sound the one you really, after, if you want to have very heavy and very crazy sounding FM, Serum can't provide that. Maybe it is great for whatever, but for heavy basses, I don't know. I always go to operator. It's a very nice, proper FMing. So I have this low pass filter that creates a movement to the sound. So you don't really have that very machine gun effect like that is so annoying. So let me show it to you. I just didn't want to use that. Too robotic. I didn't really like that. Even though I added some difference to these shots, as you can see, I have the modulation for that, where I cranked up the sustain on the modulator. So this here, the dewey, but still it was too robotic. So I added this low pass filter. Dragging by the LFO. And of course we have some high pass filters, where I filtered the very first few milliseconds, like just adding a hi-hat kind of sound instead of a click, because without the filter you can hear that, but I wanted to have is a with the high pass filter. We have that, and that is because of the high pass filter. So this is why the high pass filter here with some soft shapering. And of course the pitch envelope to add a little click. Okay, now the main FM matrix is very simple, as you can see, some linear thing. I start with the square 3 modulated by a user waveform on course 4, modulated by another user waveform, modulated by a sine wave on really high frequency. And the main, what is even that important, of course with some distortion, is a serum FX, where we add even more modulation with the low pass filter and the phaser and the flanger. Nice deep and phasery sound. Let me show it to you without serum effects. And why again it is here is when we get to this part of the song, I add some extra flangy and reverby effect to it. Let me show it to you. I have lots of modulation going on. So this is the flanger and this is the reverb. So these two guys here, but I also added another reverb to the end. So this guy here, another operator movement where I disabled the auto filter, so I don't have the pulsating effect. And of course I add some sustain to the sound. But again, this was a sound that I was really after, where I hear lots of big drum and bass producers use this heavy FME, flangery, filtery, whatever Ree says. And this was a sound that I was really after. And this is the same. This is the same sound, but I just opened up the filters, opened up some effects like the flanger and the phaser, and opened up the modulation, the FM modulation on the sound, as you can see. Yeah, this is it. So operator B. So basically with this I added a lot more FM to the sound, and it sounds so cool like a Reese. But if you pull it back and use it only on the attack of the sound, it really gives that pumping, percussion kind of bass sound that is so awesome playing here. But with the without the flanger and the phaser movement, it's not the same. So again, I worked my ass off to make this bass. Honestly, I don't know. I spent like 4 hours or even 5 to find this sound. At the end of the day, I think I can be proud of that. Okay, I have a Reese as a filler bass. So cool. And that is coming from, I think I made a video about it again on my Letsynthesize YouTube channel. And that was a Noisia dead limit Reese, yeah. So I just thought I would use it up here. I use a trilobite from the Spectral, trilobite 2, 5 voices of unison, some mirror warping mode, and oscillator B uses some FM, but it is off, so we don't need that. That's just a trilobite. I boosted some peaks at around almost 500 Hertz. It's not even that interesting. Neither the sub, neither the noise, neither the EQ or the filter. Okay, let's see the other effects. I think the voices are important. No, not even the chorus and the hyper. Let's see the distortion. Now that is important. The flanger. That is important. Low pass filter. I think that is not important again. The multiband compression does not give too much fit. Not even the equalizer. Now the reverb is important. So as you can see, this riff is very, very simple. We have some distortion, flanger, reverb, and one wavetable with 5 voices of unison and the mirror mode. And this is all with the sub. It's just, what? Too simple to be true. Alright, so this is one filler bass. And again, a little differently played. And I have a growly starting bass. Now this is a crazy one again coming from Operator. I used this thing up in my song COVID-21, I guess. It's a crazy heavily affected bass sound coming from Operator. So the main operator is A, modulated by noise. I think, no, it's a sine wave, a noise, and another square wave. As you can see here, the courses are a lot higher in frequency. But with the bandpass filter, and the shaper is not even on. But what really gives the sound the character and the aggressiveness is Saturn. And where is the... this is it here, the amp. So without them, very, very stupid sound. Let me give the boost and crunch. It gives some crazy difference, and the Saturn let me show it to you the others. I have a chorus, a flanger, nice FME tone to it, an EQ to cut the mids and boost the highs and the top and the lows. Of course, the lows are cut at the end, but because we still have some saturator, the boosted lows give some nice crunch to the end again. Okay, and light OTT as I call it, and another EQ before the saturator. And the utility to make everything mono, or the low end mono. Okay, so this is a crazy sound, and I added one layer for it for the stereo effect, and that is the same sound but with some reverb and a vocoder at the end. So this is only here to add a little more grainy texture to the sound. So cool. I have some other fillers. Now this is again from my song, older song COVID-21. Some cuts. So I think this is the song. Oh yeah, this is the song that I broke down 1 year ago here at DNB Academy in the same event. So I took those basses, took those little cuts and used them up as fillers. I think they sound so well. So there are, I mean, I love playing with samples because you can do very interesting sounds, very interesting techniques like boosting the pitch up and down, playing with the grain size in texture mode, and just create interesting things with that. Again, another serum bass. So cool. This is from my older pack for Loop Masters. I think, yes, or maybe this is just a sound I made to share. Oh yeah, this is coming from my Patreon. So I made this little pack with 10 cool serum presets for my patrons. Additive Mass to Wavetable that is made by one of my friend Camille. Where is it? Additive Mass. It doesn't even matter. It's just a wavetable that you can replace anytime. 7 voices of unison with a mirror mode that I love. And this LFO that modulates basically the filter movement and the warping mode. We don't need the sub and the compressor, equalizer and the chorus. Very, very basic stuff, but it plays really well with the other basses. Especially at the end where I placed one little chop. This is from a loop that I made previously for this drum and bass 2-pack. Let me show you the loop. This very, very short cut. And the end of that is. Yeah, so the main problem with this sound was that to match it with the other basses that I have, let me show it to you. This is why the crazy EQs are here. It's not that horrible, but definitely stands out too much than necessary. So I wanted to chop the middles and boost the highs a little. Then to make the low and mono. Then add some extra crunch with the saturator, because I heard that this sound is too like smooth and organic because of the unison voices, but the other basses are very crunchy and grungy. So the saturator adds those extra crunch in, and another bunch of EQ, another EQ to like boost a little those interest frequencies. So the sweepy frequencies and the mid lows, and boost a little in the middle at around 1K to, you know, stand out even a little more. And this is the main filler bass here that I switched up, made some stuttering kind of thing to make a difference to it. And this is the main song here. From this point, everything just repeats itself. And there is one effect that I love. So as I told you before, I use this percussion kind of squeaky bass, not bass, squeaky arpeggiato that I resampled here and put it into sampler, set the pitch bend range to the max, and I was able to come up with this sound with that. And the great delay sounds so good. And this underwater sound is the same Neuro glitch that you were able to hear right before the drop. This is the same sound that, again, I made a video about on my Letsynthesize channel. Somehow I will have to share the links for that, because I mentioned like 4 videos. You definitely want to watch them. Or just go to Letsynthesize and check my videos. I think you will love them. But what I did is just, time stretch the whole thing, because without that, It is this short, but I down stretched, and it plays a nice roll to the end, like if the whole track would go underwater. and I love it. But let's talk a little about the mastering. That I told you that it is very, very simple. I didn't even mix too much. So what I did is I tried to focus on creating fat sounds that play really well together. And of course, with sidechaining and compressing for example, the bass and the subgroup together to make everything like the loudest possible and the cleanest possible. And then all I did is just group them together and play some EQ. I don't have too much EQing, limiting, saturating, to like make the loudest, everything the loudest possible. So I have the drop bus. For that, I routed the drums, the bass, sub, the background fillers, and the synth, and maybe the effects. Yeah, they go into drop bus. And as you can see, it's crazy simple. I have a saturator that drops or catches the peaks. I have an imager, some very slight EQing, a limiter to the end, and a sausage fattener that is like behaving like a razor. So let me show it to you what it does. I love what it does. So without the sausage fattener, where is the drop bus? The final waveform looks like it is furry. So even though we have the saturator and the limiter on it, it still keeps some fur. And with the sausage fattener, you can kill the fur and add just slight more like gain to it without distorting it too much. And this only works if you have a limiter to the end and if you don't add extra gain to the sound. I mean to the final song. I just keep everything on 0, so I didn't add even. I didn't turn any knob, or I didn't add even 1 or half decibels gain. I kept everything on 0. So let me show it to you without the sausage fattener. All right. All right. And let me show it to you with the sausage fattener. So I think you can see the difference. And I said I didn't even add half decibel of gain to it. I just placed the sausage fattener on top of this. So I would say this is almost deactivated. The sausage fattener is almost deactivated, but it still shaves those little peaks and adds some extra whatever to the whole sound. I love what it does to it, honestly. Maybe you would say that, hey, okay, this is very nice and saturated, and this is overkilled or whatever. But I don't know. I love to use this. Just, adding a touch, a pinch to the final sound set. So this is why the sausage fattener is here. Let me delete the extra tracks. And yeah, this is the track. I think I spent on this like 3 days continuously, because I am lucky enough to sound design in full time. So I spent 3 full days on this whole thing. But I told you, as I told you before, I had to redo some of the parts because one of my friends told me that was not the right direction. So I killed some elements, I killed some basses, and I had to redo some parts until I found that, okay, this is very close to the reference that I really wanted to hear. I had a reference right from I forgot again the name, the State of Mind. Okay, so one of my reference track was a State of Mind track, and after a while I was able to like be satisfied with the result that I was able to come up with. And it took like 3 days, but again, I had to redo some of the parts. So yeah, this is how it works. You start with one set of drums, you build the basses around it, and you found that, okay, come on, these drums don't go well with these basses. Just replace the drums completely. So I replaced the drums. Then I replaced the drums. I had the basses. And I was like, okay, this bass is not the one I'm looking for. So I had to remake those basses. I remade the basses, but I was lucky enough that the drums still went really well with the new basses. So I didn't have to replace the drums again. And then I made some a groove with the synths and stuff. Then I found that, okay, that is not, again, it just doesn't work. It's a dead end street. Let's replace the synths again. So I don't know, if you produce music, you know what I mean. I bet you've been there a lot of times. And at the end, I think it's just great. I will still tweak some things here and there. For example, I will still have to change the outro, make it a little more longer and more proper. But these are minor stuff. But what I wanted to tell you about, I have a very nice track that I built up on my academy. So I have Letsynthesize Academy. If you don't know about it, go to my Letsynthesize YouTube channel and you will find the link there, where I made a noisier style track, and I'm sure you will love it. So let me play the song that I built up from scratch in that course, in that masterclass. And if you're interested, just go and grab it. It's not that expensive. It's like $40 or something. But this is the track. So a completely noisier style track that I built up from scratch, and you can find it on Letsynthesize Academy, or if you Google it, you can find it. Google will drop it, and the course contains, of course, the ABLETON project and an extra bonus project that sounds like this. I included this bonus project because I started to make a song, but I felt that this is a dead end for me. But maybe you guys would love to tweak it and just, maybe you will be able to finish it and make a cool song out of that. Anyway, so this was for today. I hope you enjoyed this whole breakdown and you learned a lot from that. And again, go to YouTube and find Letsynthesize if you want to learn more, or Letsynthesize Academy if you want to learn a lot, even a lot more from start to finish, building up songs from start to finish, or if you are into dubstep or whatever. And see you guys next time on my channel and here maybe next year too. Peace.
Hi, I'm Icicle and welcome to my studio. I'm a drum and bass producer from Holland, if you didn't know. I used to live in England for a long time, and together with Drum and Bass Academy I have made a course describing my entire process. It's an ABLETON course over 4 hours long in which I go through drum design, drum programming, sound design, bass lines, composition and arrangement, some advanced sound design techniques as well, and mastering. Included are the project files as well, samples, presets, everything, so you can properly follow along with me and get to the same result as myself. So I hope you enjoy.